Hello and welcome to The Way It Is. I'm your host, Barnard Sims. We thank you so much for tuning in with us this evening. We ask that you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to grow our channel so that we can grow and producing more content like we are trying to produce here today and shine light on dark spaces. And this is what our guest today has been doing in our community for a while. She actually shined her light on a wretch like me. And so I want to thank you today and introduce you to our guest, Ms. Mokah Jasmine Johnson. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. I'm doing wonderful. Actually, I'm excited. Election is like 2.5 weeks away. And so you know how it is. I'm hustling right now. I'm trying to get the votes.
Right. And as far as on the ballot, how would you like me to refer to you during this interview? What's on the ballot so that we can keep that on people's mind when they see it?
Mokah Jasmine Johnson. Like all three names are on the ballot. So when you go in there to vote, make sure you go all the way down ballot because it's very important. Folks are just going in and they might just vote for like governor and walk out. But, I want people to understand that in order for us to have the change that we want to see, even if we get Stacey in there, we need to get more state representatives like myself in order to help support the changes, whatever that may be, for us to support it and for you to get the change that you want to see. We need to make sure we have state legislators that are going to be in there supporting, the initiatives that when Stacey get elected, we need people in there to support that.
I like that. I like that. We got to put it out there, like not if, when we get you elected as well. Because a leader without the support is just somebody taking a walk. So we need
Right.
people like you. But before we get into that part of it, I would love to start from the beginning because I'm so compelled by your story and your journey. So can you start us from the beginning, your upbringing, just things you like to share with the artists so we can so that they can get to know you as well as I have been. If,
Okay. So first I would like to say that my district cover Athens, Clark County, Barrow, Jackson, and a portion of Oconee County. So small pieces that makes up the House District 120. So those four counties is what makes up House District 120. I'm not originally from Athens. I'm not even originally from the United States of America. I was born in Jamaica, and my parents migrated to this country in the 80s. I was about 6 years old when my parents came to the United States. And, we believe in the American dream. It was promised to us. It was promised to Black people that live here, that live on the American soil. It's supposed to be equal opportunity for everyone, and I saw my parents make miraculous things happen because they pursued the American dreams. They defied the odds. They were able to come to this country and have 6 of their children come over here as well, and so I do believe strongly that we should make sure that the American dream is available to all of us, because they want to complain. This is a melting pot. America's made up of a diverse group of people, and everyone deserves equal opportunity. Everyone deserves to be heard. Everyone deserves to be respected. So fast forward, I never really saw myself in the political realm. My background is entrepreneur. Um, um, my husband and I, we have an event production company. We moved to Athens, Georgia, I was saying about 2011, 2012. And when we came here, it was already a struggle for Black entrepreneurs or Black people to, I would say, have a lucrative business. I couldn't find it here in Athens. I couldn't find it. And people used to complain and say they're feeling like they're being blocked out and all this other stuff. So fast forward, in 2015, there was a bar in downtown Athens that decided it was a great idea to create a drink called Niggerita. And my husband and I was like, whoa, where are we? Where do we really live? Now we understand why folks been complaining about, you know, the unfair treatment of Black people and the lack of equal opportunity, because this boldness that we just saw for a business owner to try to create a drink called Niggerita, if they weren't called out by the printing company, they would have basically gotten away with it. So they were called out by the printing company. And I remember saying to my husband, listen, I think it's time for us to go. And if we're not gonna go, we have to do something. We can't just stay here. So this happened, I was saying, about December, like the end of the year, towards the end of the year of 2015, maybe November, December. So what we decided to do, we watched, we thought the government was going to do something. We thought they were going to be fine. The business was going to be closed down. Nothing happened. What we decided to do was to organize our first rally and protest, and we decided to do it on MLK Day of 2016. And by organizing that event, we saw over 500 people. Our first rally, our first protest, over 500 people came out, and we marched through the street of Athens, Georgia, saying, hey, hey, ho, those racist bars, they got to go. Mm-hmm. And since that time, I have been marching, advocating for justice, advocating for equality, advocating to dismantle mass incarceration, to end the school to prison pipeline, to just create a more equitable community where we all feel welcome, that we all feel like our voice can be heard. So I have been doing this work since 2016. And in 2020, that's my first time I decided to run for office, and I'm running again now. I try to summarize it for you.
Oh, wow. Hey, you brought us all the way back up to date. But I'm still stuck on. I didn't even know that about the Niggerita drink. I'm wondering what was in that, or what. I mean, I'm not surprised. Now, I'm not one of these Black folks that's surprised, because I saw one club they had Confederate night of they had a flag out there, but I'm not surprised. But I'm like, what was in that drink?
I think that's the same club. That's the same club. At the time, it was called General Bogart's, right. And they have like just all kind of stuff be going on in Athens. I wonder. That's a good question. No one ever asked it. I'm probably sure they probably try to put watermelon in it or something. You know?
Come on, man. Come on now. That shocked me there when you said that. I said they actually had a drink called that in 2016. You said.
Yes, so it happened, and it happened at the end of 2015. I think it was December or November, the end, and we was like, "Whoa!" And this is 2015, so we jumped into activism, pushing back against that. In January 16th of 2016 is when we marched and protested against, all of that stuff, and a lot has happened since then. We saw a lot of people stand up.
I think you went through a zone, froze up on us for a second. We'll keep going. Froze up on us for a second. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh yeah, it did freeze up on us. Okay. So basically, I would say that from us doing that march and that protest in 2016, we learned that racism still exists, as if we didn't know that, right?
Right.
But how much of a problem it was. And it was almost like living in Athens. It was swept under the rug for all these years, and certain issues and things weren't being fully addressed.
Right. And what I'm always amazed in is the multicultural, diverse group of activists that you're able to pool together in order to, bring about these kind of changes. That's fascinating to me, because usually when you bring up racism, there's this binary reaction. Well, I'm Black, I'm going over in this corner, and you're white, and you go in this corner. But I'm amazed at how you're able to pull together a coalition based on not who's right, but what's right. We're muted. Let me see. Did you mute?
I'm sorry.
Okay, I did that time.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's how we started the movement. The main goal is, I I don't know if it's because of my lens from being somebody that's from another country here. You know what I mean? I'm still Black.
Right.
But I do believe in order for us to make the progress that we want to see, it has to be a diverse movement. We're not going to be able to do it by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we need other people to understand the injustices that have caused us to be in this position and the role that they play in it, because we can't do this by ourselves. So my whole thing is, when I started the movement, I worked hard to make it a diverse movement. And the main thing is, like, if you're against discrimination, you're against racism, then you can march with us. I don't care if you're Democrat, I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're man, woman, Black, white, I don't care. If you want to stand up against discrimination and you want to dismantle racism and you're willing to be hold yourself accountable for it, you understand? Then right. you can be a part of this movement. So that's how I wanted to lead. I wanted to lead it in a way to where it was a diverse group of people. It was a coalition of people from different walks of life, economic status, different political backgrounds, race, gender, all of that, in order to get the change that we want to see. And so I appreciate you recognizing that, because it does take a lot of work, because it's so easy for people to go into their corners and give up on the process. But there's times we have to find where I would say that mutual place where we can agree. Mm-hmm. And stand on that and not worry about all the other things that we don't agree on, because we all want a roof over our head. We all want to eat. We all want, clean environments, So those are things that we can have in common and stand on those things and try to elevate.
Right. And as far as the compassion for our community, which you clearly display, I think you still here. I know you asked to unmute. You still here? It's on mute again.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to plug up my phone. It's
about okay. Take your time. Because I was going. All
right.
Hold
on a second. Let me plug up my phone. Hold on 1 minute, okay?
Okay.
All right.
As we wait on Freedom Fighter, I just have to do a shout out to Nubian Bookstore. That's where I got this shirt. They're up in Morrow, Georgia. One of my favorite places. As I went on my own book tour about my book, The Southern Awakening, I visited a lot of independently and Black and white owned bookstores. Nubian was one that was a friend to me. Wall of Books, which I'm waiting on my shirt, which is independently owned, and it's independently by a white gentleman named Greg, who's been very helpful in me and promote my book. Wall of Books in Watkins and Baxter Street. And I think we have Mokah back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. What I was going to say was, I think the compassion that you show from the community had to be taught to you by someone or some area, some community. Who's your biggest inspiration for the way that you move through the universe and trying to help others?
I mean, I had to think about that, because that question, people ask me that question so many times, and I really honestly am being led by the Spirit. I'm just going to tell you that. Mm-hmm. My mom is a huge inspiration. I mean, I think that a lot of the things that I do and the fight that I have in me is from my parents, because when you see two people come from another country, and when we lived in Jamaica, we had a house, but we were still in poverty, and resources there are very scarce. And I saw my parents work so hard to provide a better future for me and my family against the odds, against all the circumstances. It's even very rare for a woman to be able to have 7 of her children migrate from Jamaica. Like, a lot of families are separated. And when my mom first left Jamaica, she left by herself. She came to the States by herself.
And then she applied for the visa and had all of us come over. But that courage that she had, you know, she walked away from her family to come to a whole nother country to be able to provide a better life. And I saw them build themselves up from scratch. And my parents always, you know, they wanted me to focus on education, getting the best education. They felt like, you know, stay out of politics, stay out of those things, just get your education, work hard, and you can achieve your dream. You can achieve anything. But what I saw is my parents, they had good integrity. They were hard workers. They did everything right. But it was like there was still a part of it where they couldn't get past this certain, I would say, like the glass ceiling. They just, no matter how hard they worked, no matter how good of a people they were, they just couldn't get past certain things because of how systemic racism and how things are set up in this society. They discriminate against you because your skin color. They discriminate against you because you don't have, you know, higher education. They discriminate against you because this, that, gender, all kinds of stuff. And those things do play a role in people's lives, and it hinders them from truly living their best lives, because we weren't born into wealth. You know, a lot of us don't have the generational wealth. We don't have the head start. They tell us to pull up our bootstraps, but some of us don't even have bootstraps. Ooh. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. And from me being a GED teacher, I've seen people born into certain, I understand more now than ever, like people are born into certain conditions. They didn't even ask for it. And they are expecting those folks to achieve and live their life to the fullest, the same way someone else might have been born with a silver spoon in their mouth or something, and knowing that the odds are against them. So what pushes me and what keeps me going is, number one, definitely, I would say God and the intuitive spirit in me that I try to stay in tune with. And then number two, my parents, because I do want to make them proud. I want to let them know that all the work that they did was not in vain. Mm. Because out of all the 7 children, out of all of us, I was the one that was able to benefit the most from the American dream that they pursued, you know? So I want to be able to show people that the impossible, that, you know, they say, you know, can be done. I want to show people that your voice does matter. I want to encourage people to stay engaged and involved and to fight for your own freedom, because we are not truly free. It's a simulation of freedom, but we're not truly free. Right. So that's what keeps me going. God and my parents. Wow. Those are who I can't tell you like, oh, I mean, I love me some Martin Luther King. You know what I mean? Sojourner Truth. I love Oprah Winfrey. The Jamaican is coming out. Oprah Winfrey. I love her and her story, her journey, you know. And to be honest, you know, sometimes when I go through my moments, because it's a lot running for office and it's a lot being an activist and a Black woman, you know, doing this kind of work, I listen to Oprah's speeches and a guy named Eric Thomas, E.T., the hip hop preacher. And I listen to them in the morning, like motivational speeches, just to get my mind right. And just keep going and walking in faith, because I'm telling you, you have to be strong to do this work. And I started to understand that this was my calling. And that's a difference when you start understanding your purpose and knowing that this is what you're supposed to do. It's just different. It's different how you move.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier, you're running for the 120th district, mm-hmm. right? And that district was redistricted in 2020. The lines it wasn't?
They just did that a few months ago. They did this in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, they did the redistricting and they dropped the maps. You know, I can't remember, but I would say probably about March or April of 2022 or something like that, like right before primary elections. But this is something that they were working on for a while. And I would say they waited last minute to let us know what the new districts were. It even in Athens Clarke County, it even drew out, like the new district that they proposed drew out 3 of our commissioners. And it just made it, I would say they're playing a numbers game. So what they did was carve out, like I would say 5,000 to 6,000 more conservatives or Republicans or however you want to look at it, into this district. So it's supposed to ultimately be harder for someone like me to win it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I looked at the map, I saw it was Bogart, Arcade, Stadium, and up towards Commerce.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
it,
correct.
Okay. And
Yes.
I'm thinking that's, we can't help where the lines are drawn now, but we need to, this area is right here is very familiar to me. All those places, Bogart, Arcade. So when person like you steps up, we, the public, have to do what we have to do to make sure that people know your name, generate the interest, and make sure the main thing is what you was talking about earlier is make sure they come out to vote.
Yeah, and I mean the thing about it too is like I know a lot of people they're I would say a lot of people is discouraged. They're tired of the politics the way they are, but I also, from me being in it and walking in it, I understand it better. And I don't think that people fully understand their power and where their power lies. So we look at the presidential election and whatever happens there, whether it's good or bad, that's how we kind of predict politics. But I mean, honestly, people have really more power when they vote in local and state politics. I'm trying to tell y'all, because you might not say, oh, the president, they ain't gonna do nothing for us. What have they done for us? I ain't seen nothing. This and we say that all the time. You know what I mean? And that's a part of the game. It's making us believe that our voice and our vote doesn't matter. So why bother? But you should vote. It is a valuable tool that you have. And the more of us that collectively vote and get certain people in office that we believe that will fight for our best interest, it's a numbers game. It is a numbers game. It's a money, power, numbers. And I'm just being straight up with people. And so it is our duty, I think, that if we want the change that we want to see, I would tell you, start within your state, vote locally, pay attention to who's your commissioner, who's your mayor, and then make sure you vote when it comes to state. And that's what I'm running for. I'm running for a state position. And the role that a state representative play is that we make the decision and how the funds are going to be distributed throughout the state of Georgia. Mm-hmm. We also have the power to, if a federal law is in place within this state, if collectively, if we wanted to change a law, like decriminalize marijuana, whatever the case may be, even when you see with the Roe versus Wade situation, as a state, we still have certain power to either adapt that law or try to amend or create a law that is better for the people that we represent. So those are the 2 main things that a state representative does. They decide on the budget and how the money is going to be allocated, and they also can amend, change, appeal, create, and propose new laws. And then that trickles down to local government. And then the local government has to abide by what state has put in place. So I'm trying to get ahead of the game. So if I can get a state position, I can make a difference on the local laws or the budgets or different things that this district wants to see. But it's still a number game. We need more people that understand the pulse of Georgia, that's on the ground, that cares about people, that cares about changing the system, challenging the system in order for us to get the change that we want to see. And even when I take office, that doesn't mean it's time for you to just check out and not pay attention and say, oh, Mokah got it, I'm just going to go back to my everyday life. No, it is your job to vote, and it's your job to keep your representative accountable. We work for you. And it's like the whole system is twisted. They work for us. We don't work for them. We are the people with the power. We vote. So even if they can rig the system, or however they want to say, they can rig the system as many times as they want. I dare you, if majority of the Black people or minorities were to mobilize and collectively come together and vote, or collectively come together and stand up. Let's put voting out, because like, oh, voting is not going to solve our problem. I've been able to change local ordinances in Athens, Clarke County because of how we were able to mobilize and organize. There is a local cash bail ordinance. We have decriminalization of marijuana. We have an inclusion office. We have a pre-arrest diversion program. All of those things, they weren't done just because the local government wanted to. It's because we organized, mobilized, and put pressure on them, and we wouldn't stop. And they care about your vote. They care about what you locally more than anything else. When you can walk up on your commissioner grocery store, okay? Let me tell you, y'all really think that your vote and your voice doesn't matter. That's what they want you to believe. We know God has a higher power. Okay, He has dominion over all of this. So you don't never silence your voice, and don't let anybody tell you that you do not matter. And you do what you need to do to fight for your freedom and fight for your community, period. That's just how I feel about it. And we just have to learn more about how the political system truly operates.
Right. That's a powerful message. But I guess I want people to think about what you just said, because I do hear that as the barber in the barbershop, people, our vote don't matter, and folks, all politicians, cricket, this, that, the other. That's because we're not electing politicians that aren't like people. And so if our votes don't matter, then why are people working so hard to keep us from voting?
Exactly. Do you understand? They would not be working so hard if it really didn't matter. And on top of that, I will tell you again, it's a numbers game, and the good people are outnumbered. The good people are outnumbered. So not every politician is crooked. I can no longer agree with that. I used to say, first of all, I used to be like, I ain't voting, and all politicians are crooked. And the first time I ever voted was with President Obama election. Okay. And I will say that I cannot agree with that anymore, because I've met some good people that are fighting hard for us, but they're not the ones that are being recognized. They're not the ones that are being supported. They're not, you don't even understand how hard some of these people are fighting. Even when they're passing certain laws and they try to bring it to our attention, because we don't understand, we're so plugged out. But if I'm telling you, there's some good people that are politicians, but we are outnumbered. Right. And remember, we didn't create this system. This system was here before. We didn't create this system. So the system is operating, I guess, how they would want it to operate. But are we just going to sit there and let them? I want to eat. I want to sit at the table. I'm tired of asking them, so I'm willing to take the chance. Okay, so I'm not going to say my vote don't matter, and I'm not going to even try let them have it, because every time they have it, they make decisions for us that we have no control over. So I want to try to get at that table, and I want to eat too.
Yeah, and we need people like you at that table. That it's a system of like when people get at the table, it's me oriented. I'm at the table, so we here. But I know you well enough to know that you're more about we than me, and you're running for us. And so we thank you for taking a stance. But I'm saying, as the public, as the populace, we need to be more in supporting candidates that we believe in, like you.
Yeah. And it's just an uphill battle. Like I said, it's also like a money game. Because people like me, they make it hard for people like me to run. Good people, good community people, even like, just anyone in general that make it difficult, because you have to have enough money. You have to have so much in order to run for office. And so it discourages people. Then, with the whole propagandas that they do with trying to discredit people. So let me tell you, running for office for me is not a cakewalk. It is not comfortable. It is not convenient. It is not, it is not an easy journey, and it's a lot of discomfort. And I'm putting myself in a pressure cooker because I'm fighting for a bigger change. I'm putting myself in a pressure cooker because I want better. I want more. And I'm tired of just accepting what has been given to us. So when somebody like that is jumping into the game, you have to be able to identify those folks and understand that there's some people, it's not all politicians are crooked. It took me for a long time to even want to say I'm a politician. I don't even like that term. You know what I mean? Right. But that's what it is. When you run for office and you decide that you want to sit at that table, you become a politician.
Right. And you change the dynamics for a lot of people, because what Dr. King said, you remind me of a quote Dr. King made about the children of the light. He said it's one of the human tragedies that the children of the darkness are frequently more determined and zealous than the children of the light. And watching you as a child of the light, I can see the light behind you now. You're a child of the light. So that's not true that the children of the darkness are not more frequently than determined than leaders like you. You do that work every day through the Athens Anti-Discrimination Group in your bookstore. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that and maybe some of your works or things you have going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people to know that I do this work every day, and I'm going to be doing this work even after, November 8th. Through the Athens Anti-Discrimination, we advocate for racial and social justice through education and activism. We advocate against mass incarceration. We provide services like bailout relief, advocacy support if someone feels like their right has been violated, helping them just go through that process and providing resources. We provide community service for folks, and we also have a youth program. And so even like on Father's Days, Father's Days alone, we bailed out, we did $20,000 towards bailout support, bailing fathers out. Just in this year alone, spent over $10,000 in transitional housing. There's a housing crisis. People are being pushed out their homes. And we find that, especially if you get incarcerated or financial situation, there's not enough space for people in Athens or affordable housing for people here in Athens. So we've been trying to provide some relief in that area. And we also have been, through our after school program, we have an apprenticeship and a mentorship aspect of our program, to where we try to get, keep them doing something productive and learning more about their community and how to use their voice and advocate for their rights when it comes down to it for our youth program, and also to they get some skills through the apprenticeship, career skills through the apprenticeship program. So our organization, like I said, it was started in 2016 when we did our first rally in March. The protest that we had against the bar was actually called Anti-Discrimination, Athens Anti-Discrimination Rally. And then after we did the march in 2016, I realized that I was going to have to keep on marching. I thought I was only have to march one day. Yeah. I thought I was going to have to march one day. And then everything was going to change because I marched this one day. And then I realized we were in it. We were fully in it, and eventually established the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement as a nonprofit organization that will be here for the people and help to advocate and fight against systemic racism.
And it sounds to me like you're putting in components into our community. I mean, it don't sound like it. I know this is what you're doing, but you're putting components into our community that are setting the premises for more equitable outcomes. You know,
Right.
we all often hear about it. To go back to King again, he talk about light, and talk about we sort of like throw the people in prison away and just leave them in the dark, and they grew up in the dark. But we have to sort of start asking the question, well, who keeps turning out the light? And
Right.
so in those programs that you're bringing upon, they're presenting the light to propose more equitable outcomes for people who may not see those light unless they're activists like you.
Right. And it's just creating a outlet for a second chance. I mean, people can say what they want to say. There's all kinds of different reasons why people end up in jail. People end up in jail for not paying a traffic ticket. Okay. People end up in jail for child support, non-violent offenses. That's what I'm saying. And ultimately, when someone goes into jail, it causes such a rift in the family, you know? And so basically, the main important thing is that we have to make sure we're giving people a second chance to reestablish themselves. We can't just be so harshly judging people because they're incarcerated and just throw away the key because we don't know what is behind that story. So, and on top of that, I feel like that, I think that the original, I won't even say the original, I would say that when we did the research, almost 70% of the people that were in Athens Clarke County Jail was African American or minority. And a lot of them were for nonviolent misdemeanor offenses. And most of the time, it's just caused such a rift in their lives. And so we just want to do what we can to help people get a second chance to reestablish their lives, and also at the same time advocate for policy changes, because just throwing somebody in jail is not overall making society a better place. It's really not, because what we're seeing also is if someone stays in jail, if they commit, let's say they committed a nonviolent crime. Let's say it's a teenager, and a teenager went into the store and they shoplift. And then now they're in the system. People think that that can teach them a lesson. It doesn't always teach them a lesson. Being in that system, and depending on how long they go through that process and how they're treated when they're in the system, and sometimes when they're in the jail, the conditions are, they get hurt even more and exposed to other things, that this person becomes not a better human being, but almost, it just slowly deteriorates their character, and it makes them easier to say, you know what, forget this and just go to a life of crime. And some people might not understand that, but when someone is already in a situation where they don't have a lot of support and they're losing hope, and then they're put into a system that doesn't care about them and toss them around, whether it's a violent, non-violent, they don't even look at the charge. Everybody just treated a certain way. It can make them a worse person, you know? And so I want to help people just try to have a second chance, and to be able to walk away and move on with their lives.
You touched on a few things that this your interview, but you touched on a few things that made me want to inject this, and because you were talking about the reasons people are locked up, and in America, we criminalize poverty. If you go to court poor and you don't have representation, because let's face it, the Equal Justice Coalition just released these stats, and they're researchable. 1 out of 9 Black men on death row are found to be innocent.
Right.
And like, innocence is so hard to be found after you've been convicted.
Right.
But that's emblematic of a deeper problem, that a person has to be found innocent sometimes after they already been executed. And so we see this every day. So we have to realize that there are systems that we criminalize poverty because a person couldn't have representation, and we also criminalize mental health issues in our community.
Right.
And I noticed at the discrimination center, you have some components of that through art to give people like art therapy.
Right, exactly. We have Art for Justice on Saturday, and it seemed to be working where people are enjoying it, and it just gives you a you know, a peace of mind when you're doing that. It kind of have you unplug and just kind of just be present in the moment, which is very important. But even when you mention about people being on death row and 1 out of 9, I will also add to that even in those numbers and those nuances, like you said, the fact that people don't have they don't have enough money for legal representation is really not, it's not equal representation. I mean, I say that because a lot of people plea, they take pleas, they you can't, they accept it, you know what I mean? They take a lesser charge, even if it's not because they can't fight it. They don't have the money to fight it. They don't know how, they want to get out of jail. They're sitting there. They have them sitting there for months. The public defender is not coming to see them. They haven't seen the public defender because the public defender has a caseload that is so high that even though the public defender cares, they don't have the time to put towards your case to put it together and go into court and fight it all the way to the jury. You know what? They'll say, you know what? Let's just go ahead and make a deal and settle. You want to get out of jail. But you know what? It starts a ripple of things. There's somebody that I know that had to pay $70 a week to have a leg monitor on. That's $280 a month. That is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And it was for a non-violent offense. It wasn't even a combative situation. It was for a non-violent offense. So now you're in the ripple of having to go see your probation officer, having to find an extra $280, plus keep a roof over your head, food on the table. It adds stress, extra stress to some of these things that they want these folks to do, you know? And if you look at it, majority of the people are locked up for non-violent offenses. The percentage of people that are killers and it's a lower percentage. Society, you know, most of us are not killers, rapists out here doing these type of crimes, you know. So we have to look at the system because the system is broken. It's become a money thing to me. Every bed in that jail, you know what I'm saying? It's a dollar amount on there. When you see those guys out on the side of the road working for free, that's actually free labor. To me, that's a form of slavery. You know what I mean? They're not like, just because they're locked up, most of them do that free labor because they just want to get out and have some sun. So if you could trust them to just get out and have some sun to work, why not just let them out just to go through yoga? Why don't you let them out, go do yoga?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that people should not be held accountable for their actions, but the harshness and the way that people are being held accountable for actions and who is being held accountable more than others is where the problem lies.
Right. That's and this me again going on one of my tangents because you inspired me so much thought in me. It's hard to keep it in, but it's like sometimes we always look at crime statistics without evaluating what's being called a crime. For instance, Donald Trump said on camera that I touch women without their permission, and we made him president. And I'm sitting there thinking, if I say I touch this soda without it being mine, I'm going to jail as a black man. So it's like it's what's being called a crime, and that's historic. You know, when people come over and claim land and that's not theirs, it's not called a crime. But if I step on somebody's property, it's called trespassing.
Right, exactly.
So we have to start evaluating and put that component in there in the consideration of what's being called a crime and why is it being called a crime.
I mean, I was even looking at the fact that Herschel Walker, I think he was saying he was a sheriff or he was a federal agent Ain't that a lot? Like, isn't that a crime? Isn't that a crime to pose as a federal agent or to say that you are a law enforcement officer and you're not? I thought that was some type of crime.
and it's really not funny what I'm afraid to say, but then he said he's against a woman's right to choose against abortion under any circumstances unless you're pregnant by him.
Pretty much.
That just to me, I'm like, brother, just sit down, because you making us look bad. Run the football one more year for Georgia, because you let him have another year eligibility.
Something, because I'm telling you, I mean, it's something else. So I just see a lot of double standards, and that should show us right there. Like, we're talking about, oh, Democrats, Republicans. It's a lot of double standards within this society and within this system. It's like you want to say that Herschel is okay, but Warnock is not okay. You know, you want to say Kemp is okay, but Stacey is not okay. It's just, it's the way that this system is, and its perception and what they want us to believe, you know. And it's a lot of corruption, and you have to be so woke, and you can't just take what they tell you to face value. You have to look a little deeper. You have to look a little harder to find the truth, you know, or the closest that you can get to the truth of who these people really are, and who's going to represent you, and who's going to do right, who's going to do wrong.
What we need to do is, I know we talked earlier about voting, but you have like this petition thing for 2,500 people or something coming up.
I have a housing petition, because in addition to, I guess in the midst of my campaign, I was just like, this housing crisis thing is just out of control. And people, like, most of our work is around racial and social justice, but housing has definitely become a priority. And then there was some investors that moved into Athens, and Prosperity, I think the name of the investment group, they moved into Athens, and they bought up various units. They're not even from here. They bought up several units and basically turned around and doubled the rent, or told people after they paid up, like someone paid up for Section 8 vouchers, because there was back rent because of the whole COVID and all this stuff was going on. After they took the payment, some of these investors is like, well, we're not going to renew the lease. So people with Section 8 vouchers could no longer use it again for the same apartment complex. People that lived in, like this one lady, she lived in her apartment for 22 years. And because they doubled the rent, she's living in a housing authority. And because they basically doubled the rent, she has to move out. So the homelessness situation is not just, dealing with somebody because of they have a mental crisis or whatever the case may be, or they just down on their luck. It's people are being pushed out of their homes as well. And so the housing petition that I need 2,500 signatures. And what I'm basically doing is asking for the Georgia State Assembly to end the ban on rent control. And I want to say that again. It is illegal for our local government to put a cap on rent. So therefore, a landlord can move in, an investor. We're talking about investors, people that come in and they're looking for property solely to make money. They don't even live here. So by ending the ban on rent control on a state level, it would allow local government to be able to put a cap on how much the rent is increased over a period of time. So an investor would not be able to come in and automatically be able to double the rent. They would have to look at the current conditions, look at like cost of living, look at go by like the inflation rates and all that kind of stuff. And they would have to abide by whatever the government puts in place. Like in California, they have a 5% cap within a certain period of time. So it's being done in other places. It's not something that I magically thought about it. This is being done in other places, and it's been effective in other places. I do believe that it would have to be customized for each city and each county based on what the constituents want. and what is happening in that county. But we need for the state for our state representatives to end the ban on rent control, so that, and it's a law that's on the book. It's Georgia Code 44719, and I can send it to you. I think it's 44719. So it's a law that was created and it's on the book, and now we want them to end it and create new laws that give local government more control.
Wow. And that's so that's interesting, and I'm pretty sure it's interesting. It's happening everywhere, because right here on the last interview I did with Canola Scott, we were talking about in Wanda how poor people in the trailer parks of Glenwood are being displaced, just like but they gone. They already building apartment complexes, and pretty soon they, it's an area where they couldn't get any resources over there to help people, but you could put a police precinct there. And now, after all this going, I bet you'll see a Starbucks over there. So
Right.
it's happening everywhere. But I think for us as the constituent, we sometimes sleep at the wheel. We'll see all this going on, and because we trying to pay bills from last week or last month, that we're not thinking ahead.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
it's true. For a long time, you see, I mean, before I got into politics and activism, it's like watching everything like a movie, and you don't understand it. You see certain things happening, and you don't fully understand. You just like, oh, they don't close down that apartment complex, okay, but you don't understand the backstory behind it, that they push these people out of their homes. If you, man, let me tell you, y'all need to study Town. If no one ever studied Town, it is a tangible example of what government can do to us simply by creating a law to make it okay to come in and take people's properties and their homes. And then the University of Georgia built up a dorm.
Right.
And this was Town. It was owned by Black people. It was a small community, a small neighborhood, houses owned by Black people, and so we need to make sure that, the more we know about history, and the more we understand about how they create laws that legally displace us, incarcerate us, oppress us. You know what I mean? The more you start to understand, the more you will get involved, because you will understand where your power lies and how to use your voice, how to use your vote, when and where to use your vote. Because I'm not telling people, oh, just vote all for anybody that's, no, do your research. Even do your research on me. You can Google me, Mokah, Jasmine Johnson. If you have any questions, you can visit my website and hit contact and send me a question if you have any questions, and I'll be more than happy to respond. But we need to be engaged, and we need to be involved. We cannot unplug right now. And if you are going to say, okay, well, I'm not going to participate in local government, I'm not going to vote, then don't complain. I'm telling you, when things roll out the way they roll out, when we see Trump come back a few years from now, when we see Herschel trying to do, just don't complain. Don't complain, because you had an opportunity to do something. And sometimes it takes you running a race 5 times before you win, but you can't give up. If it's something you really want, you got to keep going at it.
Right. You never lose as long as you keep trying. That's my motto. And so now I know you. Can you give us like what are the main issue now that you think is on the ballot for this election cycle? For you,
for me, I mean, right now, I would definitely say, like when I first jumped into it, economic recovery, working wages is still top. It's very important, because especially with the inflation rates going up and down, then you see the housing prices are doubling, but yet our hourly wages aren't doubling. They're not automatically increasing that. So I don't understand. Like, these are supposed to be smart people. How does that balance out? How do you increase groceries, increase gas, double the rent, but don't pay us more in order to keep up with it or to be able to plan for our future and for our family. I don't understand this formula. So my formula is to make sure people have livable wages. And when people say, what are livable wages? I'm not really getting into the nuances. You can figure that out. You can calculate how much this rent is, and then think about, is $15 enough? I don't even think $15 is enough right now. So making sure that people are making enough money to take care of their family and their future, because if they have enough resources and income, they can pay for housing, they can make sure they have good health care coverage, they can make sure they can keep food on their table, that type of thing. Then making sure that our human rights are not constantly being stripped back. I mean, I do not believe, like, I come from a family that I would say, like, my parents, the way they raised me, is that I would say my family is more like pro-life. You know, they're more conservative, you know, that type of thing. But I got pregnant when I was 17. And when I got pregnant at that time, my parents didn't pressure me. They allowed me to make the decision, and they let me know, whatever you decide, you won't have to live with that outcome. It's going to be your responsibility. Whatever you decide, you won't have to live with that outcome. And I believe that all women deserve that right. They deserve to be able to process what's happening with them in their body and to choose what's best for them, regardless of your religion, regardless of your political whatever. Especially if you ain't never carried a child, because I've carried 4, you should not be making that type of decision. And I feel like it's a little bit dangerous when we start letting government come into the doctor office and tying our hands to where doctors feel like if they make a decision that's best for their patient, they can be criminalized for it. So just making sure that our human rights are being protected, that Black folks are having a fair and equal opportunity, that our educational system is being fully funded. So there's a lot of things that matters to me. But I feel like the top things is making sure that we can feed and take care of our families, and that our human rights are being protected, because we can't go back. We can't go back. We can't make America great again. That's true. I don't want that kind of great. You know what I mean? I don't know what they refer to, but I don't want that. So those are the top priorities for me.
Yeah. And you we're running up on time, but I did want to sort of like I guess ask you again about what you're doing, like at for the GED program, because I think that's so pivotal in bridging the gaps to second chances, is giving people a second chance at educating themselves, because we know that incarceration rates correlate with literacy rates. So you have any light you'd like to share on that subject?
I mean, one of the things that really opened my eyes, I was a GED educator. I worked for Athens Tech for 4 years before I decided to even got involved in activism. Yeah, my husband and I were entrepreneurs. We owned our own business, but I just enjoyed teaching. So that was something that I was doing. And I decided, to take a GED job as a GED instructor. And I learned so much. And I would definitely say that your education is also tied to incarceration. You know what I mean? We saw it. We saw how dropping out of school, and it was almost like a pattern. If you dropped out of school, sooner or later, next thing you know what I mean? And the reason why I can say that is because I built relationship with a lot of my students. I had students in the class from 16 to I would say about 70.
Right.
I learned from folks that dropped out of school when they were 15, so they could work and provide for their families and that type of thing. So education is really important. And I would say that if I hope that somehow that I could tie the end of school to prison pipeline program that we have to where we can offer GED education at our Justice Center eventually. And then also, once they complete that GED education, there's still another piece to it. We need to help them find jobs, or we need to help them get a higher education, like a trade or something that they can have beyond that GED. And because we have seen that in this society, the GED, high school diploma, um, or not having anything, it makes it a little bit hard. It can make it a little bit harder for you when it starts, you start applying for jobs and looking for higher pay and livable wages.
All right. Well, we're right. That's our time. I wanted to make sure to give you an opportunity to give your contacts that you want to give out, your social media page, so everybody have a chance to get to know you and follow you.
Well, my name is Mokah Jasmine Johnson. I'm running for Georgia State House District 120. Remember, if you live in Athens, Clarke County, Barrow, Jackson, or Coney, you can vote for me. Check out my website at www.mokah4georgia.com. You can go to my website, put in your address to even see if you live in my district. You can learn more about my platform. It's called the Freedom Plan, because I'm fighting for your future. I'm fighting for your freedom, because we are not truly free.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us. And I just have to end with, the darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And you are the light in this community. You are a strong light in this community. And I appreciate you for taking the time to join us on The Way It Is.
Thank you. I love
you.
everything you're doing. Thank you. I appreciate you. And just let me know how I can be supportive. And, thank y'all for everything.
All right. Well, thank you. That's my time. I'm Barnard Sims. That was Mokah Jasmine Johnson. Please vote for her, because we need more light. And support us, like us, and subscribe to this programming so that we can continue putting on programming and present such lights like Mokah to you. Thank you, and you all have a nice day.